Hi, this is Joe Shannon. I'm a lawyer, a husband, a father of 6 kids, and I also host a podcast called Opening Statement with Joe Shannon. Please consider listening to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and any other folks that host podcasts. Just Google Joe Shannon and podcast, and you'll find it. I hope you enjoyed the show. So we're thrilled to welcome Noah Labhart to the show. Interesting background here. Founder and CEO of TouchTap, a digital solution studio, and the CTO, I think it means Chief Technology Officer, and co-founder of Veryable, Veryable, a startup focusing on on-demand labor for manufacturing. He's also the host and co-producer of the Code Story podcast. So pretty excited about visiting with you today. It sounds like you got a pretty varied career. So welcome to the show, Noah.
Thanks for having me, Joseph. Excited to chat.
So you're wearing the Chicago shirt. What's that all about?
Well, some of our investors are based in Chicago and got to take a trip up there recently. I say recently, it was last year, but took a trip up there, and got the T-shirt, right? Got to have got my kids some toys that say Chicago on it. I got to have a Chicago T-shirt for me.
That's awesome.
Really enjoyed the town. Great downtown. Good.
So you're from Texas, right?
That's right. So I'm from a small town called Joshua. It's south of Fort Worth. I say it's small, it's getting bigger, but I lived there my entire life, actually.
So you're born and raised in Joshua, Texas?
Yeah. I was actually, funny fact, born in Cleburne, which is right next to Joshua. So I have to throw that technicality in there. But yeah, born and raised in Joshua.
Tell me about your upbringing.
Yeah, so typical kind of small town life. I was a country boy, played outside a lot, played a lot of sports. Interestingly enough, I'm a tech guy, but wasn't exposed to technology until late in high school and in college. But yeah, I played a lot of sports, was involved in student council, did the National Honor Society thing, was super active in high school, middle school, all through life. I have three siblings, excuse me. There's 4 of us. 3 siblings. I have an older brother, older sister, and a younger sister. So there were a lot of us to fight over the macaroni and cheese at the table. And so both my parents, still live in Joshua. They got a couple acres down there, and we still go down there and see them. And it's nice to be out in the country sometimes.
That's great. And then, so what'd you do when you got out of high school?
Ask that one more time, Joseph.
Yeah, what'd you do when you got out of high school?
So I got out of school and I went to Texas A&M University. So I'm an Aggie. I've always been an Aggie. There's probably 20 or 30 of us, uncles, aunts, cousins, all of that, that have gone to A&M through my dad's side, some through my mom's side. So A&M was always a big family tradition. Not to mention it has its own traditions, and I just loved the school. So got out of high school, went to Texas A&M, studied computer science and applied mathematics, and graduated in 2005. And
so, I've heard a lot of stories about Texas A&M. Its allegiance is legendary. I mean, as far as the football team and the stuff you guys do for football games and all that stuff. Were you all in on that stuff?
Oh yeah. I was there for 5.5 years. Ended up getting 2 bachelor's degrees during that time, but I didn't miss a football game during those 5.5 years. I was at every one. The first few years I sat with my dorm, and then after that I would sit with the tickets I could draw through my job at the ticket office, which were second deck, 50-yard line. Aggie fans are devout fans. We stand up the whole game.
Yep.
We yell the whole game. There's 2 rings on my finger, my wedding ring and my Aggie ring, and neither one of them come off. So, so I'm an Aggie through and through. Interestingly enough, my wife is a Sooner, so she likes to make fun of our Aggie cult, she calls it. But she supports me anyway.
The big game is Texas every year, right?
Well, it used to be. Then we moved to the SEC. I forget how many years ago, but it used to be Texas. Now it's pretty much you say LSU because that's the around the Thanksgiving time frame. But yeah, for years since A&M's inception or the football team's inception, it was A&M versus Texas, and that rivalry is still close to everyone's heart, but it just doesn't happen anymore.
Right. And so then do they still play Texas every year? Does A&M still play Texas every year? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's doing that cutting in and out thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, does Texas play Texas A&M every year still?
No, they don't. And I think there may be some people that are trying to bring it back, but they don't play each other anymore. The big Texas game every year now is Texas OU Red River Shootout. But no, sadly we don't get to play the T-Sips anymore.
Well, okay. All right. Well, let's get down to talking a little bit more about you. So you get out of A&M, and then what do you do up until now?
So graduated from A&M, and I went to work for a company called Software Architects. So I was a .NET development consultant, so technology, a web technology, ASP.NET. I would go work for different companies, and my first client was Pier 1 Imports in downtown Fort Worth. Went to work for them, did some development, did a couple of projects for a year. Then interestingly enough, I started a band, which is is a interesting part of my life. Played in a rock band on the side while I was doing my professional life, and my bandmates were all kind of living in South Fort Worth. And I found out about this opportunity to apply to Alcon Laboratories. So applied and I got accepted to work at Alcon, or was offered a job to work at Alcon in IT, and so moved to South Fort Worth. Did that. I worked at Alcon Laboratories for 8 years. Worked in document management and imaging, retention. Worked really close with the retention group and our legal group. R&D groups, really any group, because they all had their own retention policies and things. Then for a few years, I worked in sales compensation, so the systems that paid out our sales reps and all of their commissions, which is a very delicate set of systems. And then worked in manufacturing. So I was an IT manager in the manufacturing plants in Fort Worth, where I supported the engineering groups, the infrastructure, and some of the enterprise systems, ERP, things of that nature in the manufacturing plant. Once I did that, it was probably about about the 7.5 year mark. I started to want a little more. And when I say that, I was well taken care of at Alcon. I worked for great people with great mentors, learned a lot. Was put through college to get my MBA. And I got my PMP as well, my project management professional certificate. So it was very well taken care of. But I had the itch to sort of see the fruits of my labor, kind of in the big box corporate world. No matter how hard you work we'll say in IT, it's hard to see the difference you're making. You can see that the lights are still on, but you're not necessarily moving the needle. And I get it. Alcon's product, was eye care products, right? And I'm a tech guy, and I kind of wanted to see the fruits of my labor, and I started to get the entrepreneurial itch. A little bit of background: I have a ton of family who own their own businesses, who do their own thing, and so it's kind of in my blood to go sort of pave my own path. So I started taking on some projects on the side, building software, and decided to leave Alcon to start TouchTap. So TouchTap was my mobile development agency.
Okay, so what year did you do that?
So I did that in 2015. So April of 2015.
All right, so we had like a 5 year. This is kind of like a 5 year checkup here, buddy. You left working for the man, um, and so tell me about that discussion with your wife about, hey, listen, I'm leaving the cushy job with the benefits, the whole thing. I'm going to be 100% commission salesman. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was, I give so much credit to my wife. She was incredibly supportive. She would see me come home, from the corporate world every day, and kind of just see that, I won't say depressed look on my face, but just a little bit, just like, like you're not doing exactly what you need to do, and there's more you want to do. So
Yeah.
she would see that. And so when we started having those conversations, she had some concerns, obviously the same concerns I had, just around, okay, we're going to jump. We have young family, I think at that point we were pregnant with our second, or just had our second. And so, we had just had our second, actually. So we had a very young family, and proposing to essentially take a pay cut, take a benefits cut, and figure this whole thing out. So we socked away some funds to sort of have us a little cushion, a little padding, and did that, in a calculated risk sort of way, and then jumped out. So the conversation was really good. I have an extremely supportive wife, and high fives and hugs to her for that.
So you'd done cliff diving before, right? You've gone to Mexico, done the cliff diving before.
Not quite in Mexico level, but we'll say Lake Whitney, maybe Texas lakes cave jumping, or cliff diving.
Okay, so you did your cliff dive, you're jumping, and so 5 years later you're hitting the water here. How's the dive been?
Oh, it's been really, really good. That doesn't mean it's been easy, or it hasn't had its parts that were really painful. But it's been really good. So I have learned a lot through these few businesses that I've done. I have, figured out how to build a parachute on the way down. I figured out a lot of what I didn't know. And not even what I didn't know about the logistical part of owning a business, but what I didn't know about myself, and can I go approach, how should I approach things? How should I approach business? How should I approach new projects, new ideas, things like that? When I jumped out, I had been working in the big box for 8 years. I knew everything, right? I could do anything, and took off on my entrepreneurial journey and bit off way more than I can chew. The first project, there was a lot of painful memories. But they shaped how I did everything moving forward. So they were hard, but I grew and built on the wins, and then added more wins, and then added more people and more successes. So the ride has been great. I don't think I could go.
So is that touch tap? Touch tap?
That's touch tap. And actually, to be clear, touch tap's no more. So touch tap has been wound down, but that was touch tap that we first started out as.
Okay, then it became variable.
So TouchTap was my mobile development agency, and then I met my partner Mike while I was doing TouchTap, and we built it and started variable kind of on the side, and I kept TouchTap going for a couple of years actually.
And then variable started when?
Variable started in May of 2016.
Okay.
So we actually formed and started building the prototype then.
And is that the company that is basically your big one?
That's my big one. Yeah. So TouchTap, I'm very proud of it. TouchTap, we did good. I ended up, when we were at our peak, I would say, we were doing well. I had, maybe 13 or 14 contractors that were working in and out on projects. We were taking on projects. We had some bigger support projects as well that we were working with, like Park Place dealerships, and this big company out of California called Voice Layer. And we were really doing well, but variable has been the success story, I think, for me. We are, over 70 people now, full-time employees. My technology team itself is 12 people. My partner and I are continuing to grow the company, continuing to push. We have plans to get across the entire United States and perhaps beyond someday. So that's been the winning story so far.
What does variable do? Variable, Veryable. What does that company do?
So Variable, so we're the on-demand marketplace for manufacturing labor. So what does that mean? We have an Uber tagline. Everybody has an Uber tagline in the on-demand space. We're the Uber for the shop floor. And so we provide businesses with flexible capacity. So the ability to ramp up and ramp down their workforce as their demand fluctuates. And then from the worker side, we provide flexible work arrangements, the ability to make your own schedule, and daily pay. So you work an op, we give the business the next day to make adjustments, and then you get paid that next day. So you essentially have a rolling paycheck if you work on our platform. So we've created this win-win for both sides of the marketplace, manufacturers, distribution centers, warehouses, anything really in the supply chain industrial environment, and then workers in that world.
So the 70 employees you're talking about, are any of those the gig workers?
No, those are full-time employees. So 12 engineers, a handful of corporate folks. Majority of people are the market teams that are boots on the ground in the geographical markets that we're in. We're in 10 or 11 markets now, just starting into the Midwest, so that number actually might be a little bigger. But we're in across Texas and across the southeast of the United States.
How does that work from a cash flow? How do you pay these guys that day? I mean, do your clients have to pay you that day as well?
So great question, and you keyed into one of our early challenges that we had to figure out how to make work. So we pay the operators essentially up front, and then we charge the businesses the next week for that prior week. And we have some traditional invoicing, which net 15 terms, and then we also have some that pay credit card, so some that pay immediately, and so that usually takes a couple of days to process. So we do have we initially jumped out with a sort of a cash working capital problem that we had to figure out how to do, and we've partnered with the Silicon Valley Bank to provide us some working capital that helps us with that float, and continue to pay the operators on time daily, and then collect from our businesses, and that's worked out really well.
So are these basically, are a lot of these guys laborers then?
They are. So we have a lot of warehouse workers. We have a lot of laborers. It's unskilled labor. So we do have some higher skilled labor on the platform, maybe like welding, forklift driving, things like that. But mostly it's in fact our top two skill categories are warehousing and assembly. So pick, pack, and ship. Receiving, assembly, following some instructions and putting together some sort of kits, perhaps some QA work in the manufacturing process. So primarily those things. So
the 4-year checkup on this business is pretty good.
So far, yeah. So far, so good. We have a very supportive set of investors as well that are excited about what we're doing. We've been able to prove a lot. We've pretty much had an upward trajectory since the beginning. I will say, excluding this pandemic timeframe.
Sure.
We're back on the upward trajectory now. Now that things are reopening, but for the couple of months, I'll say it was flat. We didn't really drop too much, but it was pretty flat.
No, I get it. I mean, March 19th hit pretty hard, and then who knows, it's rolling now, but probably less so in the South, but more so in the North. You have more of a halt to things.
Yeah.
But exciting story. I mean, it's so your partner is, what kind of background does he have?
Sure. So my partner's Mike Kinder. So he's our CEO and co-founder with me. And actually the idea for Variable originated with him. So he's been an operations manager in several plants in the past, worked for GE, ran plants for GE, then he worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for PwC for many years. He was strategic director of operations. So he would go out to these manufacturing plants and basically evaluate their operations and figure out how to make them work better.
Sure.
Right. And as he went out there and did that thing, he saw like all this new technology coming, all of this, IoT type stuff and new manufacturing tech that could be great, but was really expensive. And if you couldn't figure out your labor problem, then it was pretty much no one was going to invest in it. And so he had the idea for Variable, and we got introduced by a friend of mine, college roommate Ryland Barnes, who's also a successful tech entrepreneur. He pitched the idea to me, and here we are 4 years later.
Do you think that Variable happens without TouchTap?
Good question. That's a great question, Joseph. I don't know that I've thought about that too closely, but I don't think that it would have. I don't think that I would have been involved. So I'm really thankful for TouchTap. I think it taught me a lot about building software and executing on building an MVP. For TouchTap, our primary, I mentioned some bigger customers that we were supporting, but our primary bread and butter was new entrepreneurs who had a little bit of funding that wanted to build an MVP and really, shave down what was needed to get it out to the market. And I think in doing that and learning that, I knew how to execute quickly on building something like that. And I think that really helped. Variable still may have happened, but I don't know if I would have been as well equipped to jump in and start doing that. But that's a really good question. I'm gonna have to really think about that one and come up with an elegant answer for later.
No, I think you build on all the experiences that you have through life. I mean, I was kind of reliving your experience. I started a law firm when my oldest was 2 and my second oldest was just born.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of thinking about the discussion I had with my wife, back in '96, and then now I have 6 kids. And I kind of look at the businesses that I'd formed and look at who was living back then. But it takes a lot of, it's a roller coaster ride as well as a cliff dive. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you need to learn through some, strategic defeats how to handle stuff. I mean, the one thing that I like about having, some setbacks, et cetera, is that it keeps you hungry. Mm-hmm. For you, right now, this is probably the point where your company needs you to innovate more than ever. Mm-hmm. And change software and make it better, and not sit back on your laurels and say, "Oh, hey, listen, we're done fine. I can go on coasting." No, this is the time right now where you got to double down, and so that must be fun to wake up in the morning and kind of attack it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the way you put that. The setbacks do keep you hungry. They do keep you on your toes, and they keep you wondering like, okay, what are we about to encounter? And I do have that drive when I go in these days. And I think what really helps continue that drive is the culture of the team that we've created, especially my specific tech team. They're all innovators. They're all creators. They're all wanting to push the envelope and continue to make this platform that we've built be able to not only be sustainable, but to be scalable across the U.S., across the world, and continue to attack the engineering problems and the innovation that we need to continue to make happen. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, I see this. So, C.H. Robinson and those companies did that for the trucking industry. Uber obviously and Lyft have done it for the ride hailing industry, and you have the food delivery industry. So you're kind of doing that for the construction industry. What is the market for that? How much money is in that market?
Sure. Good question. So just to clarify there, so we don't support construction. We only support manufacturing, supply chain, and the industrial type environment, which construction is industrial, but it's a little different.
Yeah, so hold on a second. So then manufacturing. So tell me what precise industries that you guys target.
So we target manufacturing plants, distribution centers, warehouses, third-party logistics, final mile companies, things of that nature. So people that are supporting the supply chain.
So I heard there's a small company out of Seattle that is pretty good at that.
Who is that?
Amazon.
Oh,
do you work for them yet?
Sure. No, we're still trying to get in that arena. They have some internal systems. It's interesting. The things that I've heard about Amazon, and I can't confirm any of this, but I've heard that the working conditions are a little rough.
Yeah.
And just as important on our platform, businesses are obviously really important on our platform. They're revenue generating. They're the ones with the opportunities. Just as important though is our workers, and we got to take care of those workers and make sure the businesses are good that are on the platform. So there's a two-way rating system.
I like that. I like that a lot. Just like with Uber and Lyft is I'm used to that. I like to rate these people. I'm assuming they rate us too, right?
They do.
And so, and so, one of the questions I think it's interesting is, for all this stuff, is, are you able to get, patent any of this stuff that you're doing, or not patent, or whatever, make it proprietary?
Sure, good question. So, the core product that we've built, we thought about patenting it, and we don't think that the core product is patentable. However, one thing that I'm curious about is these things that we're building on top of our core platform, if they are. So we're building a way to sit our platform on top of your enterprise software, pull in real-time orders, real-time, manufacturing metrics around labor, and calculate how much on-demand labor you need based on full-time allocation and then on-demand need. And through our platform, and it's not quite finished yet, it's still in early stages, but through our platform, have those opportunities automatically post out to the marketplace, and if you want, automatically fill them. So essentially, you hook up our platform to your system, and people show up when you need them to, based on when your orders are going to need to be created. So that's what we're going for, and I think something like that is patentable. I think we're close to the finishing stages of being able to hook that up to an actual use case for a large scale, distributor. So are there opportunities to patent? I think there are, but we haven't really pursued it super hard yet.
Have you ever thought about, instead of doing it, licensing it?
Like basically building a white label platform?
Yeah, licensing your platform that you've developed, your software, and licensing it to other people.
We have had thoughts of that, and what we want to do, and we haven't shelved those, or I'd say shelved. We haven't I don't know what the word is. We haven't said no to that. What we wanted to do in the beginning, though, was not get distracted with doing something else while we're making sure that manufacturing is served, and really the supply chain. I keep saying manufacturing and warehouse distribution. I could just say the supply chain, capture them all. So we wanted to focus on that vertical solution first. But the core product that we have, we could basically white label it and license it to other people if we wanted to. I'm not certain it would be as impressive, the part that we white label. I think it's more impressive the operational tool that we're building for manufacturing.
So where's your main business hub? Where is it in Texas?
Yes. So our main office is in the west end of Dallas. So we're in the Coca-Cola building in the west end, historic west end. We've been there since January 2017.
And so tell me how you guys handled the whole coronavirus 4 months.
Sure. So that's a good question. We're back in the office now. I'm not, because I have an air conditioner guy coming to fix my house today. But yeah. We are back in the office, and those first couple of months were a little bit strange. We saw some interesting things happen on our platform. We all went remote. We stopped working in the office. We did shelter in place. We went and worked remote, which we're not a fully remote team. We're an in-office team. So that was a bit of a challenge. There were some teams that were challenged by that, and really had to grow through that. One of the interesting things as far as our business, though, that we saw was that we had a downtick in some businesses that were on the platform. Then we had an uptick in others. We do support some medical distributors that had to get medical supplies essentially out to people, and so their business ramped up. So we saw an interesting, we saw the market sort of change a little bit, but some businesses drop and some businesses go up. So that was interesting to watch. And as far as in general, we didn't have to let anybody go. The full team was still maintained. Our revenue curve went flat, probably much like everybody else's, or I think a lot of people's went down, which is unfortunate. But we maintained, and now we're kind of back on the uptick.
That's sweet. And that to me, going through that type of thing, so for our company, for our law firm, going through that, we basically made the commitment that everybody was going to stay on board and everybody's going to work, remotely. But we learned a ton about, how to operate that way. And I think it's going to be great for us in the long run as far as productivity, just working at home. I mean, I think it's going to have an overwhelming plus to American businesses that they're going to be able to understand that productivity means more than actually being at the office.
Yeah. I think that's very very well said. I think we're all going to have the opportunity to explore that a little better. I completely agree with you there.
What's your trajectory on this business? Where do you think you're going to be in 3-5 years?
That's a good question. Within 3 years, I want, my partner and I both want, our footprint across the United States. We've been really excited about the Midwest for a long time. There's a lot of industrial environments in the Midwest, and we're just starting to scratch the surface. We got our regional manager in place there, and starting to really jump into those markets. But within 3 years, I want to be across the United States. Within 5, that's 5 years is a lifetime in a startup. So it's hard to plan out that far. But we've talked about international. We've talked about some of these other opportunities. Some of these white labeling things that you've mentioned. But really, our roadmaps and timelines are usually about a year out. Right. So to say 3 years is exciting to talk about, but also a lot can happen in 3 years.
No, I get it. Well, you'll have a 12-year-old by then in 3 years.
Don't remind me that.
yeah, exactly. So let's change gears to your podcast. How's that coming along?
It's going great. Same thing, I think, with everything. The pandemic has startled I would say the growth of it. But I do the podcast for me. It's kind of a hobby for me. I was having conversations with CTOs and tech founders already, sort of peer networking and asking questions of how you solve problems and things like that. And so, I'm kind of a podcast junkie as well. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, How I Built This with Guy Raz.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great podcast. And it was really inspirational in how I built Code Story. I love how he drives the conversation, how he interviews, and really pulls out a lot of the human experiences from these business owners. And I wanted that for technology. And tried to find a few shows, couldn't find it, decided to do it on my own. And I was having these conversations anyway, so I was like, I'll just start recording them. And then got a little artistic and put them to music and edited them and things like that. So we're 52 episodes in, and starting our 3rd season next week, maybe the week after, depending on how editing goes. A little interesting, this next season, I'm going to be editing all myself. I've had editors work with me the first 2 seasons. Now I'm going to do it all on my lonesome, which will be time consuming, but is also really fun. So we'll see how it goes.
So I do mine video, and people can obviously listen to audio. What do you do?
I just do audio. I haven't done the video yet. I use Squadcast for my interviews, and we'll do, video to video, but I won't record it. And so I
Okay.
pretty much just pull audio down, take the audio files, edit it. Again, I put it to music, so it kind of creates some tension in the story when we talk about hard stuff, or when we talk about successes or reflecting, like points where the founder's reflecting, sort of some ambient music, kind of things like that. But it really sets the mood of the story. And so it's hard to do that with video, and time wise. Audio is just a little faster for me.
Sure. And then, you're seeing this more as an art form, which is cool. I mean, and I think it is. I think more, so I grew up, when I was a teenager, I grew up in Washington State. So when in 1977, the Seattle Mariners and the Seattle Seahawks became professional franchises. And so I listened to almost all the games, as well as Supersonics, on the radio.
Cool.
And so to me, I'm a radio kid. I love the radio. And then as time went on, cable came on board. And so I followed America's team, Atlanta Braves, and all that type of stuff. So I became more of a video kid. So I'm kind of a blend, but I really do like the radio aspect of it. So your podcast, when you're developing that music and drama, etc. I don't know. Did you ever hear David Niehaus? You ever heard of him before? The broadcaster for the Seattle Mariners.
That name sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
Okay, so if you can ever look up some old stuff on Dave Niehaus, he was the broadcaster for Seattle Mariners forever. In my book, he was better than anybody. Better than everybody that did baseball. And baseball is probably the best radio out there. And so, but he was absolutely magical. And so I think the podcast thing is great because people can listen in their cars. They can listen, when they're in their home, or through Alexa or whatever it is, which I think is a really cool thing. So I think it's fun that you're doing that as a side thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. It is really fun, and it's fun to see people listen to it and like it. It's fun to hear people say, "Hey, I like this, but could you do this, or could you interview this person, or hey, could you turn the music down? It's too loud." I got that a lot, actually, season 1, and I like that. I like making something that people like. It's fun.
Well, it's really cool that you're going to be editing it too. That kind of adds a little bit of your skill. Your handwork. It's like you're making a custom-made podcast. It's like making carpentry or something like that. It's kind of 2020 carpentry. So
yeah,
that is really, really cool. So listen, what can you tell us personally? Are you other than the Aggies, are you follow anything?
I am an Aggie fan. That's my team of all teams. I'm a sports guy in the sense that I love to play sports, but I'm the worst at like following teams and stats and all that stuff. I just don't pay too much attention to it.
All right, give me top 3 Aggies.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm biased, but so my cousin was a receiver with Johnny Manziel, so he's in the top for me. Travis Labhart. I liked Johnny Manziel. I think he's kind of a mess, but I really liked him when he was playing for the Aggies. I really liked Jamar Toombs when he was playing. He was the fullback. And Dak Gwynn linebacker. One of my all-time favorites. Just really humble guy.
Yeah. Who was the best running back that ever went to Texas A&M?
Oh shoot. Jamar Toombs was pretty darn good. So I may say that, but I don't know that I could. I don't know if I could say this is what everybody thinks is the best one. I did enjoy watching Jamar Toombs. He was a fighter.
Right. And then do they call the crowd the 12th man there?
Yes, we are the 12th man.
That's right. Yeah. I like it. And they do that with the Seahawks. They stole that. They have the number 12 and they retire the number 12 and all that stuff. And
right. Totally stole
So yeah, they completely stole it from the Aggies for sure. Well, cool, man. And then tell me about your personal life a little bit. You have a nice family. You said you're a big outdoors person.
Yeah. So, there's a couple things, I guess, for me personally. So I am an outdoors guy. I like to hunt and fish. I just recently, we took the family to go see my sister-in-law in Crested Butte, Colorado, and did some fly fishing, did some
Oh,
hiking. I mean, that's my place, is in the mountains. So definitely an outdoors guy. Again, I love to hunt, deer hunt, pheasant hunt, bird hunt, yeah, anything really. Um, and just like to be outside. Love to play with my kids. Love to be with my wife. And then what's important, kind of core to my life too, is my faith. I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and I think that's it's really important for me. It's really kind of the lens I see everything through. Or try to see everything through. Definitely flawed and sinful man, but yeah, it is core to my life.
that is cool. Yeah. So I think that's, you know, the number one thing you have to have in your life is a belief system.
Mm.
I think a lot of, very successful people have a belief system, and, a lot of people know who Mother Teresa is, and her thing was God first, others second, me last.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I think that's ecumenical. I think, it could be for anybody. And I think a lot of people, of the leaders of really good organizations, and you're one of them with this up and coming company, is that the best leaders in my book are the ones that are servants to the people that work for them, and help them, you know, uh, be who they need to be for the company, and to be also to be, one of my thoughts for everybody that works at my companies is, my role for them is to say, listen, I want to help you to get the most out of yourself, to get the most education, so that after you, there's a couple different ways you're going to leave our company. Either you're going to quit, either you're going to die, or we're not going to need you anymore, whatever that is. I'm hopeful that you figure that out for yourself, because but when you leave here, I want you to be like the most educated thought leader in your area. And I think if you give that type of approach to every person that works with you, every team member that works with you, how could they not be all in?
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I'm reminded of a book that I've read by Dan Pink, and it talks about motivation, and a couple of those things that really ring true with what you're saying are autonomy and mastery, right? Like giving people the ability or the opportunity to go master something and be the best they can and be thought leaders and learn a bunch, but also the autonomy. So give them the ability to go own it, and whether it goes good or bad, to own it and learn from that and continue to get better. I think that's really, really important stuff.
Yeah, and with your team, I'm sure you're a guy that tells them that you're grateful for them, because so that's the thing with me. I'm one of 10 kids, and my dad made 18K a year, and he gave me the opportunity for a really good education, and both my parents did, and I took advantage of it. But the education that you get from schooling is a lot different than the education you get from outside of schooling, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that I grew up in the laboratory of the United States, because other parts of the world, what we do is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so people take it for granted. I think I'm really grateful that I was put in a situation where I could start something and enjoy it, and then make mistakes, and then come back, and all that type of stuff. So sounds like you've been doing a great job with that, Noah, and I hope I hope that we'll talk again maybe in a couple of years, and you'll be telling me about how far your company's come, and that you're going to take over the world too next.
Well, I appreciate that, Joseph. And I definitely appreciate that. And it's been fun. It's been fun to have the conversation. It's great to meet you, learn something about you. And I do hope we do it again.
Absolutely, buddy. And listen, man, good luck to you and your lovely family. And and go get it. Go get the rest of the United States, and then we'll talk about the world market, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, we'll see you now.
All right, take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the opening statement with Joe Shannon. You can find us on the internet at shannonlawgroup.com or telephone our office at 312-578-9501. Have a terrific day.